Of course, as soon as I start recording, I get a notification on Discord. Um, Let me just go right ahead. It's like as soon as I hit record, let's put myself at do not disturb. All right. So last week I did a video in one corner of my garage, talking about my layout that I want to build out there, and I've kind of been pitching some ideas, throwing some things around, and floating some ideas. And this is kind of the rough, tentative idea that I... Hold on, let me make it even messier. There we go. The rough, tentative idea of what I'm thinking of doing in HO scale. And yes, I'm committing to transitioning back up to HO scale. I love the N scale, but the more and more I look at that N scale layout out there, and the more and more I think about it, that layout just wasn't making me feel happy, wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't as enjoyable as it could have been. Maybe if I had finished it fully, in my previous apartment, maybe, but yeah. So what I'm thinking for my potential HO scale layout is a two-layer, a double-decker, point-to-point with return loops HO scale layout. Basically, it's going to be okay. There were 3 design requirements that I had for the layout, right? Continuous running, so be able to just put a locomotive at 50% power and just watch it go in circles all day. Realistic operations, so actually deliver cars to industries and do switching and all of that. And somewhat realistic, a realistic take on it could be a fictional area, it could be a real historical area, it could be whatever. So I started playing around with Scram, Simple Computer Aided Railroad Modeling. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. And started kind of taking some measurements. And right off the bat, there's like 2 things that are wrong with this. 1, this is not the actual outline of the benchwork. And 2, this is actually a foot shorter than what I've measured out. So the space I have measured out is about 6 feet along here and 18 feet from here to here. However, while I was sitting there thinking about how to do my bench work, I took a measurement and I can squeeze a whole nother foot out of this. So things like this area right here will probably just be a foot longer. That's really the difference. This is the lower level, and then this right here is just the upper level. Something to make note of. Oh, that's interesting. That one shouldn't be there. Oh well, let me just really quickly fix this. So yeah, let's. This is the lower level, and this here is the upper level. This is not 100% finalized track plan. This is just me seeing what I could potentially fit in these areas. Let's go ahead and start, though, just kind of a brief tour of what I'm thinking here on the lower level. So we start down here. There's this. I have to be very careful with how wide I make this. Now, I apologize if I'm jumping all over the place. I mean, I normally do, but it's a little worse today just because I've stayed home from work sick. I'm super congested. I'm just now starting to get to the point where I can talk and breathe properly. So let's start here. I've got this roundhouse. 2 tracks going into it. One of them would have like a coaling tower and a water tower and a sand tower, and the other one would just be like a through track. And I could possibly put like another switch right here to go to like here, just a stub track for like servicing the coaling tower, but probably won't. They'll probably be one of those things where like the coaling tower sits here, but you unload coal here or something. Whoop. I probably won't have that many tracks on the roundhouse. It'll be a smaller roundhouse because this is going to model a branch line off of like the main Père Marquette or some other railroad. This is the terminus, like the end of it. It's the little end of a branch line. This is where they connect to the main railroad. So this would, be the staging loop effectively. I have to be careful of how wide I make this because this part is up next to my garage door. And my garage isn't very wide. I still need to be able to park my motorcycle right here. If I were to make this wide enough for a 24-inch radius curve or even a 22-inch radius curve, I wouldn't have enough room to get my motorcycle in and out without risking smacking into the layout. So this is an 18-inch radius curve, which is very tight for HO scale. But again, this isn't the main line where everything's going to be going. Not a lot of stuff's going to be running through this loop. But in order to have continuous running, I have to have this return loop, or I have to do double track. And I don't want to do double track. So this switch right here, which all these switches are number 4s, this switch right here will always be, this one that's red, will always be aligned to go this way. So effectively, this stretch of track here that I'm highlighting in red would be the main line routing. This one will always be set to go this way, so that way if I let you guys, the viewers on Twitch, run a train, you don't have to go through 1, 2, 3 facing point switches to go through the yard. You would come through here, go around, la-da-da-da-da, and into this corner. And I know somebody, specifically somebody on Reddit's going to be like, you got to put a straight piece of track right here before a switch, you're going to have problems. No, you don't. You just have to do your track work right. Little side note about this. I have a thought and an idea of actually getting rid of this. Let me click on it. This track right here, right? Get rid of this piece and make this a downhill grade. So that way the balloon track would actually be under the helix over here, which we'll get to that in a minute. And I could have a couple track staging yard. It would only be, this high, but just enough to get the trains underneath and out of the way, which I think would be cool. And I think my tentative plan right now is to get all of this built as planned here, more or less. And then once both the upper and lower deck are running, revisit the idea of lowering this into this lower section. So yeah, following the main line, we have this little 4-track yard right here. And the main line then comes here. It's a straight track. Maybe I might put a little zigzag right here on the main, but that's not really needed. I mean, maybe I could zigzag it out and put a station, right here. But there's not really going to be passenger service, so maybe it's a dilapidated old station. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe put like a yard building or 2, like office or something here. And I would somehow do the bench work to at least always have about an 2-inch gap between the edge of the benchwork and the track. And the benchwork's going to have a little bit of a lip to it, so if anything does derail, it can't roll off the edge of the layout. Coming down here again, this all has to be moved about a foot that way. Because again, if I extend this all a foot this way, this gives me a little more room here. And just because the way this software works, I had to do a little jog there, but there won't actually be this jog. And then this track here would be the yard lead. I was thinking about doing a yard lead, and I was thinking about not doing a yard lead, and then I realized I have enough room right here. I could. Alternatively, I could put another switch here and have like 1 yard track that comes down here that's a stub track. And then the yard lead is just you're going out on the main. I think one of the advantages of doing the yard lead is I can be switching you know, using these switches here and the yard lead, and you guys, the viewers, could be circle burning with a train. I tend to put like a webcam right here overlooking the yard and the layout, and then like another one over here looking into the helix. Going on a little further, we have this switch here. Now, side note, all the switches, with the exception of one switch, are all number 4s, because again, this is a little branch line, an old, dilapidated little railroad that, you know, has tight track work, and they're not running anything over a 4-axle diesel. I say that, and I went looking for locomotives that could potentially run on this layout, and I found some Lake State SD70s, and I went,
why? Why do I want this?
The yard lead obviously would go a little bit longer because I want the yard lead, and this is something I've always done. The yard lead should be long enough to pull everything out of one track plus the locomotive. And I think this one's just a little bit shorter as I have it, you know, sketched out here. If I did the yard lead, then, you know, one more track longer. This track here, you would come down and there'd be a little industrial area down here. You know, it might be one switch and 2 tracks like this. It might be a couple of switches, and maybe there's a warehouse or something, you know, a couple warehouses or manufacturing facility or something down here. And then here, there'd be some trees or something right here to kind of like hide the fact that the train's going into the helix. And this would be a helix. I think I did the math. It's a 2% grade. It's a 2% grade, and I think it's like 7 turns going up to the second layer, which is up here. And you would come out, and there'd be a curve switch right here. I don't know. I don't know if I would have anything going over here, just because, I don't know. There's this little passing siding here. I've measured it out. If you bring your train up onto this inner track here, or outer track, it's long enough for a locomotive and like 6 cars. And the inner one, I think, is long enough for a locomotive and 5 cars. So you can go up there and you could do a runaround move, because during operations, when I'm doing operations, or if you were to actually be physically here in my garage running my trains, you would not use the return loops. You could go up to like this point right here. I don't know why that's there. You go up to like this point right here, or maybe right here, and then there's a sign that says like end of track. So during operations, you wouldn't go past here, which you wouldn't really need to anyways. But I'd have, again, this isn't finalized, I'd have a couple industry tracks up here. I want to do something like this, because I did this in the past on another layout, and it was a good little bit of operational interest, because you had to spot a car here, but you had to do it as a trailing point move. So you'd have your locomotive here, and the car you're going to spot here, you would back up, come into here, grab the car you're picking up, back out, you know, completely taking up all these tracks, put the car you picked up back onto your train, and come down here, back up, spot your car, then come back up here, go out here, do a runaround move, grab onto the back of your train, push it forward, and spot 2 cars here. And then pull it forward, and then you come down here doing the same thing. You'd spot a couple of cars here, and then you could head back down the helix, down to the main layout, or the rest back down to the yard. And so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars you would deliver up here. So it would actually be quite a bit of operational interest. Again, this switch here would be a little spring switch, although it would be sprung to the curved route. Again, for continuous operation. So you guys watching on the webcam could just continuously run a train. And again, I'd probably put a camera right here. Like I'd have one here on the upper deck and one here on the lower deck. And then like one here looking into part of the helix. So that way you guys could watch it. Going back to the first, again though, this is just a rough draft. What I'm going to do is I want to get the benchwork built. I'm going to do the benchwork as basically just 2x4 ladders with some foam board on top, and then lay my track out, and then buy a bunch of pieces of track. Oh, that's why that was on the wrong. It was on the wrong layout when I did that. Okay. Buy a couple pieces of track, start just fiddling with things. I have done the rough math, and it's about $700 worth of track. I'm not going to buy all the track at once. I'm probably going to do enough to do like this part minus the round table. Like, I'll put these two switches here, but I probably won't even put the track leads going up to the round table. Why are you beach balling? And kind of work my way this way. The round table will probably be like one of the last things I buy. Although I have found a couple of 3D printable ones, so I might just 3D print a round table. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kicking around the idea and kicking around the track plan a little bit. And probably January, February, I might start working on this. I still have the problem of my garage is not insulated at all. So right now, it's nice and cool outside. My garage is nice and cool. Even when it gets cold out, my garage stays kind of warm. But in the summertime, my garage gets very, very hot. And I'm worried about trying to work on a model train layout when it's 100 plus degrees in my garage. The trains will probably actually all come in during the summer months. I won't work on the layout. Except for like maybe late at night on like a Friday night or something. I will be live streaming building this process. When am I going to start it? I don't know. What I need to do is... I have some time off right now. I stayed home from work sick today. I got some time off next week. So my budget's going to be strained. I'm doing some other stuff this weekend that's going to take some money. And also I'm trying to build robots. So it's like I have so many hobbies and interests. This is like one of the back burner ones that I'm trying to bring forward. So what I'm going to try to do is get back into live streaming, just playing video games again every week. I didn't last week because of the election. I didn't today because I'm sick. I might later this week or next week. But hopefully I can build up some interest and momentum and use some of the financial gains through streaming, because I can monetize my streams through subscriptions, bit donations, and ad revenue to hopefully put money towards building this layout. So if you subscribe to me on Twitch and Twitch pays me out, the 100, whatever the payout threshold is, or you throw a bunch of bits at me, cool. That means I get to build, I can take that money and buy some switches, buy some flex track. Buy the wood, buy everything. The plan is to start buying lumber probably January, like early January, and start streaming and building around then. But that's just the plan. That might change. I don't know. But yeah, I don't want to run too long. Thanks for watching. Check the link in the description below for my Twitch channel. Come support me there. Like, subscribe to YouTube, and maybe I'll start putting more videos out from model trains again. I have some other ideas for a YouTube video that I need to put together. That's probably going to be a next week project when I have a whole week off of work. I will catch you guys all next time.